That's a key difference. That makes the complexity dropping big time. Very important. Okay? Clear? Good. Now I'm going to refresh your memory a bit. So I'm giving you an example here of a maximum matching, which is relevant to what I presented before. So this is a maximum, actually longest port first. What it means by longest port first. This is a type of an algorithm that's called LPF. You may please type it down. Longest port, it means you calculate the number of packets in the whole port and you add to it the number of packets going to one outer port. If you see what I mean. And the match is based on that quantity, longest port first. Please refer to the papers that you are given, and there is the description of LPF. You are supposed to understand what is that. So LPF is a maximum size match. Now, we got also AQF and OCF. These are maximum weight, whereby the weight is the length of the queue that's connecting, which means basically here, if I'm at output 2, when I see this number 1, it means that the queue is here, the first one that goes there has 1 packet. And if I look here, the queue that goes from input 3 to output 1 has 8 packets, whereas the queue that is at input 3 wanting to go to output 2 has 1 packet. That's what it tells you. Okay. If you would like to look at this wait as the waiting time usually refers to the waiting time of the packet that is at the head of the queue. Could be also the waiting time, how long it has been waiting. So taking the oldest one is also a good metric. We will see why. These are examples, but these examples, they refer to the maximum, whereby after finding a match, if it's not maximized, the algorithm is allowed to go back, delete some connections, update them in order to maximize the weight. That's why it's called maximum. And that's why, or that's where the complexity comes from. That ON 2.5 or ON cubic log n, it comes from that very fact. Whereby this algorithm here, first of all, it was connecting this here, and when it connects this here, it ended up excluding this vertex. And therefore, it has to go back, delete this one, connect this one instead there, and therefore connect it here. That loop back results into a maximum match, but it's expensive to have. This process of looping back is expensive, okay, time-wise. So, expensive time-wise, and that limited the performance of these routers. So industry and academia, they were trying to solve this problem of matching. What they wanted to do, they wanted to approximate this one. What does it mean to approximate it? They wanted to come up with an algorithm that tries to behave like this, but it's much lighter one, it's much faster. Is it clear what I'm trying to say? It's like trying to design a car that goes exactly like a Mercedes, but it costs $10. Basically, this is what I'm saying. It's a dream. We are allowed to dream, right? So this is equivalent to what I'm saying here. The goal was to come up with some sort of algorithms that they would deliver this performance, but they are much cheaper, they are much faster, which means they are much simpler. I talked about this before, maximum. Now, maximal, what they said in order to make the algorithm simple and is not later removed from it, they did not read anything else, only the red one. What it says a maximal matching is a matching in which each edge is added one at a time and it's never removed later from the match. Okay? So there will be no multi-paths allowed. You cannot remove edges added earlier, like by inspection. And no input or output are left unnecessarily either. What does maximal matching does? Maximal matching is break that loop back. And when you break that loop back, it results into a faster algorithm. and much less complex one. Is it clear what's written in red? So that looping back to maximize, it's taken out. And when you take out the loop back, it means it's a faster. It converges much faster. It finishes. Okay?
How can you get the maximum matching the first step without
How can you get the maximum?
matching?
Who said you are getting the maximum?
No, we try. I know.
We wish.
We wish, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Do you know that if you pick randomly, you may pick the maximum? Because it's random.
Does it mean you may end up with the minimum?
This is what I'm saying. So if you pick randomly, one possibility is by chance you pick the maximum.
But how can you do it based on this random? How can you improve the performance of an object? How can you?
I'm not saying you're improving. I'm saying you are designing an algorithm that runs very fast. And now you are hoping you will get the best performance. But you can't guarantee.
Yeah, but it's a hope. It's not a real one.
Nobody said that you will get the maximum. It's called maximum. It's different. Because we know that the maximum is slow. It's hard to have. That's a given fact. Now we are trying to approximate it. Okay. Actually, surprisingly enough, there are a number of maximal matching algorithms that there are lots of work that's done in that area to try to tell you, for example, a maximal matching, even a random one, is at least giving you the better, how to say this, it gives you at least more than half the match of a maximum one. Which means, if a maximum gives you 100%, a maximal will give you minimum 60%. Now, what you did, you trade off 40% performance for a much easier one, much higher speed. Now, if you get a much higher speed algorithm, what you can do, you can run it 2 times instead of running the other one 1 time. Do you get me?
Yeah.
So there are lots of trade-offs there.
There's a trade-off between the complexity and
the performance. Sure. Because the complexity sometimes, technology or constraints will not allow you to implement the best one because the best one will take too long time to converge. For example, if you have a router which is 32 ports, and on that 32 ports you would like to run OCF algorithm, the maximum, for example, maximum matching. You may find out that maximum matching when you do it on a circuit for a 32 queues, okay? And every input port has inside it 32 queues, value queues, right? So you got 32 by 32. How much 32 times 32? 12,000 something, maybe 900, nearly 966 or so, or 1,000, okay? So you would find that this algorithm would converge into a number of microseconds in order to find your match. Okay? Now remember that we talked about input links last week and how long it takes a packet to come at a certain rate. For example, if you have a 10 gigabit per second link and you have packet size of 64 bytes, we remember that we said that it will take roughly a packet in the order of 12 nanoseconds, right? Now, if you are getting packets coming at the rate of 12 nanoseconds, whereas you got a block here that takes 1,000 times more to serve them, what will happen over time? You'll get many packets queuing, your queue gets bigger and they start being blocked. So that's why maximum weight and size, because it's complex, it may not be suitable. So sometimes you have no choice. It's not that you are choosing, it's that you are forced. Okay? So this is an example of a maximum size. Now, this is a maximum matching, and as you can see here, input D and output 5 are not matched. Why? Because the algorithm that does maximal, it connected this guy there, this guy there, this guy there, it came to D. It found out that, unfortunately enough, D can only send to 1 and 2, however 1 and 2 are already taken by the previous one. It cannot go back, it's a solid. It just discards them. It takes this out of the match and continues. The very fact that it does not go back makes it very fast. So you are trading performance for speed. Clear? Whereas the maximum guy went back and did it. It spent more time. So basically it's trade-off. It's a very typical engineering problem. You are trading off Performance or speed? This is performance, this is speed. Simple. Okay. Now this is general comments about a maximal matching. Maximal. In general, maximal matching is much simpler to implement, as I've been saying. A maximal size matching is at least, this is exactly what I said before, is at least half the size of a maximum. A maximal is at least 50%, at least. I'm talking about the match size. Okay. The maximal weight matching is defined in an obvious way. So with the maximal weight, you can define the Q length. Maximal weight matching, again, is at least half the size of a maximum weight. So maximal versus maximum is at least half the size. At least. Which means, if this guy requires 10 times more time to convert than this one, 10 times, I would pick this one and run it twice. Because I know if I run it twice, it will give me the same. So I'm gaining, roughly speaking, 80% of the time. If you see what I'm saying. Okay. The very first algorithm that has been presented into the maximal, it's called PIM, parallel iterative matching. This is a very well-known algorithm. This is one of the very first that has been proposed into this family of maximal size matching algorithms. Now, how do we do this maximal? Now, before, let me go back a bit. Before the maximum matching, I presented for you how it works. How do I find the maximum matching? By inspection, right? So the algorithm iterates until it finds the maximum, right? Clear? Good. And it takes, depending on you are doing maximum size or maximum weight, it will take you a certain amount of time, complexity-wise. If you are doing maximum size, it takes you order of n, and n based the number of vertices, the number of nodes. When it's maximum size, it takes you n 2.5. When it's maximum weight, it takes you complexity-wise order of n cubic. Okay? Because it looks back. Okay? Now maximal works completely different. In order to find this one, you don't have to have a complete picture on the number of nodes and looping back. It's different perception, different way of thinking. So maximal works in a different way, whereby the nodes, they don't talk to each other. They really don't talk. That's why it's called parallel iterative. This node will be looking for a match at the same time this one is looking for a match. They look at the same time. Whereas before, maybe you find this one and then you go find this one and it's sequential. You go back, you look back. In this case, it's different way of thinking of algorithm. So the matching is done in parallel. You match completely these ones at the same time as this one and this one and this one. Which means when the match is done, this is left over, I'm sorry, you can't go back. We will see how it works, Maxim.
Sorry,
Yes.
I think the process is parallel. What
Yes.
happens if A and B tries to send what try to send to A at the same time?
You mean A and B, they are trying to send to who?
To 1. What will happen?
Oh, that's very good. So at the same time they send,
Because they don't you say
they don't talk to each other.
Exactly.
Very good. They don't talk to each other directly,
Also, they can't both send to A.
but they send SMS to each other.
That's nice. It's not talking.
They don't talk to each other, but they talk to each other through a different process. And I'm going to explain what is that. So there are 3 phases to make them match in parallel, yet they don't talk to each other. It's very smart. So what happens? These guys, they would send requests to their outputs at the same time. This is where the parallel processing comes. So input A and B, they don't talk to each other. They have no clue about each other. What they do in parallel at the same time and independently. Each one of them will try to send a packet, as you said, to output 1. They have no clue about each other. Actually, this guy B, he is so innocent, he is so idiot, that he doesn't know that there are other guys next to him. He doesn't know. So packet comes in, he will not send the packet, but he would send the request to 1 telling him, I have packets for you. This is the point. What happens? So all of these inputs, independently and in parallel, they will send requests to the outputs for which they have packets. Okay. Now, the output will receive requests. It will pick one of them. So in this case, this output will receive a request from A, from B, from D. So one would know that there are 3 inputs that they want to send him packets. One will pick one of them. Output one will pick one of these.
So you just pick a randomly or just based on some TI?
We will talk about that. Long story. Let's start easy. One will pick one of them. Will grant one. Will grant one input. In this case, one, for example, will grant A. Will tell A, hey, yes, I accept you sending me a packet. B will not receive a grant because A can send maximum 1 grant. So B will not receive a grant and therefore it will not send a packet. Even though B has no clue who else is requesting the output. So that is where the parallel process comes in. A, B, C, D, E, F, all of them, they will send requests. They don't know that anybody else exists at all. They will wait for a while for grants. Are they accepted by the outputs? And if an input receives a grant, he will send a packet. Sorry to make an analogy. You go on the internet and you type stable marriage problem. It's a very well-known theoretical problem. A stable marriage. Marriage. Married. This is equivalent to marriage. Yes. These are the guys, these are the girls. It is. And a girl here got 3 proposals. 3 guys wants to marry her. It's very correct. It's true analogy. It's a very well-known algorithm, a stable marriage model. Why are you laughing, guys? Can't you see the analogy? This girl, 3 guys proposed A, B, D. She dumped B and D. They are not her style. She granted A. However, mind you, listen to this. Oh, the guys, they have preference. They don't choose only one girl. They have a preference. They want to get married. So they, for example, this guy A, he wants to get married. He has a preference. Maybe he prefers girl number 1. But if girl number 1 will not accept him, he can also do with girl number 2 or girl number 3. So if this guy is a hot guy, he may be granted, he may be accepted by more than 1 girl. In that case, he will choose because he can't marry more than 1. Right? Huh?
That's the equation, right?
What is that?
Actually, you can.
No. Here, the constraints given that a guy or a girl can only marry to 1. Now, the solution to this algorithm, how can you match girls to guys such that no girl is married to a guy for which he is not her best choice, and no guy will marry a girl for which she is not his best choice? That's called a stable marriage. Because if a girl is married to a guy and he's not her best choice, and at the same time he's married to her, she's not his best choice, the marriage will end up in the court. Okay? That's why it's called stable marriage. I have a paper for you about stable marriage. Stable marriage is exactly bipartite matching. So maybe it looks like it made you laugh, but really it's a theoretical problem. Okay? And the parallel, where does the parallel comes? The parallel processing comes. The guys, when they want to ask the hand of girls, they don't talk to each other. It's in parallel time. And when the girls show their interest in guys, it's also done in parallel. They don't talk to each other. That's where the parallel processing comes in. Clear? Sorry?
It's clear.
Can't be anymore. Now, this is what it says. So here, this is one example, PAM. It's amongst the very first practical scanners proposed for VQ architecture. It has been proposed by a company called DEC. This was in the 90s, maybe? Beginning of the 90s. It's based on having arbiters. Are the inputs and outputs arbiters? We will see what these arbiters are. What it does, it iterates the following steps until no more requests can be accepted, or for a given number of iterations. It iterates. That's why it's called parallel iterative matching. The I. You see the I there? How come we did not say what's this? This is called parallel iterative matching. Sorry guys, I did not spell it out. PIM. It says parallel. P is parallel. I is iterative. M is matching. Forgive me my mistake. I should have spelled it out. PIM. Parallel iterative matching. And that's why it says it iterates. It iterates a number of steps. These number of steps, please follow me guys. 1, 2, 3 are done in serial. But each step, the process inside each step is done in parallel. For example, request. Request is a step whereby each unmarried guy sends a request for one girl. Each unmatched input sends a request to every output for which it has a queued packet. Send means a packet. This process is done in parallel. Here. You see these links here? The weak one, the non-bold ones. That's a request phase. So every input would send a request to every output for which it has a queued packet. This process is done in parallel. They don't talk to each other. They do it in one shot. Then comes the other step, which is called the grant. Now the grant, every output, based on the requests it receives, it would pick one input and grant it back. Say, yes, I accept you. Okay? That's a step called the grant phase. That grant phase is done again in parallel. Every output would look at the requests it receives and send back one of them. Grant, which is happening about if an unmatched output receives any request, it grants one by randomly. Parallel iterative matching, it picks randomly. It's not based on its best choice or the most handsome guy or whatever. Yeah, it's random, completely random. That's why they are. Now, the last step is the matching, the accept. Now, when these guys here, they express their grants, comes another step here called the accept. Now, these guys, they express their wishes. Maybe they would receive back more than one grant, they would have to accept one of them. And the accept means the matching, the marriage. These three steps are done in serial. So you cannot do the grant until the request phase is done. But each one of them is parallel. This is an example. Sorry. This is a 4x4 route. This is a graph, a request graph. Now, these links, they would say that output 4 has packets queued for, input 4 has packets queued for output 2 and output 4. I gave you this example here. Because it is a 4x4, every input port will have a 4 very output queues. Clear? This is clear, guys. Very good. And here, it has a packet queued for 1, that's blue. It does not have any packet for 2, that the queue is empty. It has a packet queued for 3, and has a packet queued for 4. Now, it has a packet, it may have more than one packet. It may have more than one yellow packet. The link here, it says there is traffic from that input to that output. Okay? But it does not tell you how many packets. It doesn't tell you. It just says that there are queued packets that they want to go. This is the request phase. Now, these requests are sent in parallel. They are done in one in the same moment in time. Okay? So these guys that don't talk to each other, they do it at the same time. Okay? Then comes the other phase, which is called the grant. The grant, again, these outputs here, they would, for example, this guy received 2 requests. He would pick one of them to grant it. It's done in parallel. They pick the grants at the same time. They don't talk to each other. That's the thing. So here, as you can see, this is the result of the grant. As you can see, the arrows are in the other side, the other sides, which means the grant is happening from the output side to the input side. In this case, This output number 1, it received 2 requests. It so happened to choose input 2. As you can see, input 2 is a very hot choice. Hot guy. Everybody wants it. Output 2, it receives again 2 requests. It picks request 1. Do you see? Is it clear here? All of these are happening at the same time. That's where the parallel comes from. Here, this selection is random because parallel iterative matching does it randomly. So this choice is done randomly. Clear? Yeah. So this is the grant step. Now, the inputs, they received the grants. They expressed their wishes. Now they heard back. Now comes the match. This is the match. Now the match again is done randomly. So input 2 is very popular input. It receives, everybody wants input 2 to send to the bucket. Input 2 still had the choice. It picks number 4. Okay? And one that does not have much choice, only output 2 accepts or granted input 1. So input 1 sent to 2. As you can see, the match is 2 connections. Whereas if we applied maximum, we will end into 4 connections. Clear? Is this clear? I'm hoping it is clear. So this is a random selection. Now mind you, this selection, because it is random, it defines the algorithm that's called parallel iterative matching. Now the way you accept or you grant, that defines the name of your algorithm. You may accept based on how big is the number of packets here, how many. That's another way of picking up. You may say, I will grant the input that has the lowest port number, for example. That's another way. There are endless number of choices, of criteria. That would define the name and the type of your algorithm. Okay? We will describe a class of these algorithms. The very first of them is parallel iterative matching, PIM. Okay? It's a very well-known one. These are the properties of PIM. PIM gives you 63% throughput with 1 iteration. When I do 1 shot, an iteration is this. But these 3 steps are called 1 iteration. Okay? And I must say, the iterations are the request and the grant, because the match is the last one. Okay? But I will say the iteration is the 3. Let's keep it the 3 of them. It's not the match, it's the accept. Okay? So when you execute these 3 steps, it's called 1 iteration. For example, here, 1 iteration gave me this. Another, if I want to run PIM for 2 iterations, I will take input 1 and 2 and output 2 and 4 from the match and keep matching 3 and 4 in the inputs and 1 and 3 at the outputs for the second iteration. So we'll try to see whether output 4 has anything to do with input 4 has anything to do with 1 and 3, and the same thing with input 3. And as you can see, input 3 has connections for output 1 and output 3. And this would result in at least this guy being connected either to this or this. Output 4 is outside the connection because output 4 has packets for 2 and 4 and they are already taken. Okay? So if I run another iteration of the algorithm, I will end up with matching input 3 with either output 1 or output 3. Okay? But if I run it with 1 iteration, I would at best end up with 63% throughput. Okay? Why it's 63%? Whoa, a long story. Well, it's not a long story, it's an easy story. There is a paper that's called iSlip scheduling algorithm, maybe, that you have. It describes exactly the details why it is 63. Basically 63, because the probability that an input remains not granted is equal to 1 minus 1 over n to the n. Whoa, how is that? and for large n, this quantity would converge. This one would be approximated by 1 minus 1 over e, which is 63%. How is that happening? Now, in order to find out the throughput will tell me how many connections out of this would be connected to the output. And the ratio of the number of inputs connected to the outputs would give me potentially the throughput, right? Now, how would an input be connected or sending to an output? It's linked to the grant probability. An input will not send unless it's granted, right? An input will not send unless it gets a grant. If it does not get a grant, forget it. It's not going to have a match, okay? Now, therefore, we would like to see what is the probability that an input is granted or not granted, because before it sends anything, it must have a grant. Now, the probability of an input being not granted by all outputs is this quantity. Why? Because the probability of this output granting that input is 1 over n. So the probability of this input being granted by this guy is 1 over n. Because this guy is granting randomly, and there are n requests at best, at maximum. So the probability of this guy being granted is 1 over n. But the probability of it being not granted, what is it? Is 1 minus 1 over n, right? Now, the probability of this input not being granted by this one is 1 minus 1 over n. That's the probability of input 1 not being granted by one output. So the probability of this input not being granted by all outputs is the multiplication. Is the probability of this not being granted by this, and this, and this, and this. And that's 1 minus 1 over n times 1 minus 1 over n times 1 minus 1 to the n. That's this one. When it is not granted, that will translate directly. The throughput becomes 1 minus this quantity. Okay? This quantity, 1 minus 1 over n to the n, converges to 1 over e. So 1 minus that one will give you 3. The details are in the paper. You are expected to understand how it works. You may be given different scenarios and ask the one. Is that hopefully clear? More or less? If it's not clear, you are strongly advised to understand how it works. This is the implementation of the parallel iterative matching. Implementing it in hardware is extremely important. Is as important as the algorithm. How it is implemented in hardware? It's a circuit in hardware. That circuit needs some sort of state. The requests are into a register which is n square bits that will register for you the state of the input queues. That tells you, is there traffic? How would you record these connections? In real hardware, you will have a register, and each entry of that register would refer to one virtual output queue. And that's why it's of size n square bits. N square bits meaning n by n. N for each import. So this one will have n bits. Each bit would address an output. So because each one of them has n, and there are n of them, so we will need n square bits. Right? This is the very starting point, which is the request. Then there will be the grant arbiter that I described to you here. This one, whatever it is. Whoops, this one. That's an arbiter. Okay? And that's residing here. We'll have n of them because I will have an arbiter per output port. Okay? That's there. So at each output port, there is some guy sitting there that's called a grant arbiter. And it will work parallel to the rest. These grant arbiters, they will result into something here. They would result into giving you a link back, expressing that the girl wanting that guy or not. That's the link. The link gets back like that. Where that link goes, it goes to the something that is called the accept, because this is called request arbiters, but in fact they are called the accept arbiters. Here I call them request because of this feedback loop if you want to have more than one iteration. But in fact, this is the accept arbiter, and that's why there it's a decision register. Again, the details of the hardware are in the paper. I'm just describing to you what's going on. But you are required, I should say required in big, in red. You are required to understand how it works. You may very well be asked to design it in an exam. Yes, you wake up. You've been sleepy, I said an exam and you just, right? Good. We'll keep mentioning that. So this is how it works. I will go in more details in one article, which is a better example than this one later on in the lecture. This is another way to implement implementation of a parallel matching algorithm. Another way. So when the requests come in, there is a request buffer, and then they go through the grant and the accept, and they are done in parallel. Okay. This feedback loop here, you use it if you have more than one iteration, if you want to run your algorithm more than once. Okay, and then you get your decision there. The decision, it's a register that has a number of bits, and that number of bits should be communicated to the inputs and to the crossbar to make a connection, and the packets move. Okay, all this must run within a delay, and that delay will define how fast your router works. Okay. This is how it works, so performance and properties. I said after one iteration, so assume that you have this input request. A random selection could result in this one, whereby the grant here granted to number 2, the grant of 2 granted to 4, and the grant of 4 granted also to 4. So this guy has 2 connections, and that guy has 2 connections. Okay. Now, the grant would result to that one, and then out of the grant, which is a random selection, will come the accept. This is the accept. So this input 2 got 2 grants. It will pick one of them randomly. It picked 1, so it chose this one. Similar to 4. 4 choose this one. Okay. This is step 3, which is the accept. Now, if you want to run it for more than one iteration, you will start again, but taking these 2 outside the match. This is it. This is how it starts, the next iteration. The next iteration, you see 1 and 4, 2, input 4, output 1, output 4 are completely outside the discussion now. So what you are ending up with, you are ending up only with 3 talking to 2. And it gets granted back, and that's your acceptance, and this is the result of the matching after 2 iterations. You get 75% connection. Okay. These are the traffic types. Different types of traffic. The uniform, I told you before, uniform traffic is where each output have the same rate, the same likelihood of receiving packets. There are different ones, for example, diagonal traffic or hotspot traffic. Hotspot is client-server application, whereby normally in a router you will find pretty much half the bandwidth is going to one output, and the rest, half of it is going to different outputs. That's a hotspot, it's called a server, let's say, whereby all inputs talk to it. These are types of traffics that usually we use them as metrics to test the performance of routers. For example, if we'd like to test the performance of PAM, we may test it under this type of traffic. Clear? I will not go much into this. Actually, I'm going to stop. But what I'm showing you, this one, what else do I have here? I will describe this later. This snapshot, hopefully we will be able to generate this exact one in the lab. This is generated by the simulator I gave you. It's generated for a 16 port by 16 router, and we are injecting traffic. When I say 16 by 16, the matrix here, the traffic matrix is 16. And this is uniform traffic, I guess. And I'm recording the latency. The simulator will give you this type of results. The simulator that you have now, okay? And what we are trying to compare, we try to compare the FIFO discipline that I explained last week, and we said it gives you 58.6 throughput. We described this in the previous lecture. That's FIFO. And then parallel iterative matching with one iteration, then this is it, 63% gives you roughly. We compared it to maximum weight matching, OCF, and we compared it to the output queued switch. The output queued switch is the best, the ideal. This is output queued, this one. It gives you always the best delays as the traffic load gets bigger. The maximum, which is very complex algorithm, is also gives you good results, but it's very complex. This is simulation, this is on computer. It gives you the theoretical results. That's PIM, that's FIFO. Tomorrow, hopefully, in the lab, I will describe how this works in the simulator, and we'll go through it. Okay? I'm going to stop here. Please, 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 prepare for the simulation tomorrow. Look at the simulator. You will realize those who don't prepare for the simulator, they will be spotted out. It's easy to tell. Please give it an hour at least. That will help you big time for the lab. I'll see you tomorrow in the lab.